Hello, train man. Now, I don't share quite the same passion as you for trains, but just throughout my life, I've generally used them a lot. I didn't start driving immediately, didn't start learning at 16, for example, and so I've just been used to using public transport more than driving, and whenever I can avoid using a car, I'll do so. So this video is just to share my responses to the same ones you gave in your Q&A. So first, my top 5 stations. I'll give in no particular order, I'll give the honourable mention first, because it's not in Melbourne, but my first one is Geelong, because it's exactly the same as what it's always been like, and just a spectacular wooden staircase overpass. Similar to Geelong, in my top 5 is Hawthorn, which has also a wooden staircase overpass. I think I have a sort of thing for wooden overpasses. Next, Kensington. You named Yarraville, and I think Yarraville close for me, but yeah, Kensington. Love Kensington. Love the streetscape, and like Yarraville, I reckon the streetscape of Anderson Street in Yarraville and one in Kensington. The road parallel to the station, as well as the road crossing, the level crossing. Yeah, that helps make the station's overall atmosphere. I also concur with Windsor. That's one of my favourite ones in the network as well. Reminds me of the station in Harry Potter, Hogwarts or Hogsmeade. I'm not sure which one it is. Don't haul me over the coals for getting it wrong. Another one is also on the Sandringham line, Brighton Beach, which used to have the old boom gates, and yeah, just a spectacular station. And lastly, you had Tacoma on the Belgrave line, and I've also got one which is just up the line from there. It's take your pick out of Ferntree Gully or up Ferntree Gully, but just not so much for the station amenities, both stations amenities, but more for just the fact that you're entering the foothills of the Dandenongs and just the surrounding atmosphere of both stations. So obviously, in running the whole public transport or train network, I've had a bit of a perspective on all the stations, and obviously having to travel out there, but then running alongside all the lines as well. And my favourite line to run alongside, which I could do in one go, is the Sandringham line. So just you go past the sea, along the seaside, and yeah, just some really good stations. Just a really enjoyable run. The only tricky bit was when I thought there was a path going alongside the track, and it ended up being sort of fly infested, and I had to take a U-turn and go around along the streets around, I think it was Ripponlea or Elsternwick or something like that. My favourite abandoned lines, yeah, so Outer Circle is the first line that I ran, so it has a bit of sentimental value, and I don't think there's anyone out there who doesn't like the Warburton Rail Trail, but that's just spectacular from start to finish. And same, even though it's not abandoned because it's used for obviously tourism, is Puffing Billy. So just around, just being in the Dandenongs, and just especially Wright Forest, and just yeah, so just very enjoyable run out that way. If I were to resurrect any lines, I agree with with you in that I would resurrect the inner circle. Even if it were not heavy rail, but just light rail, just a tram line going across, because in the inner north, all the tram lines seem to go north-south, and there's no real connections going east-west. And if you had all the lines in place, the inner circle, the outer circle, Rosstown, Windsor Loop, St Kilda, and the one what's called the Sandridge Rail Bridge, you would effectively have an inner suburban rail loop. In terms of other networks, I haven't really been around Australia too much, so only seen a little bit of Sydney. And yes, I also like the double-decker trains. And further that, I also like the seats that can swap directions. So if you don't like someone, you can just swap directions. In terms of London, haven't been there, but yeah, just amazing engineering feat in terms of when it was built, the technology they wouldn't have had to build it when they did. And I remember seeing a documentary which spoke about something called the Eye of the Needle, where they were, if you haven't seen this, where they were building a new line and all the trains on one line were still running at the same time. And there was literally a matter of centimeters, about 30 centimeters between the edge of the tunnel where trains are still running and where they had to make another tunnel going just above it or below it. It was absolutely nuts. So just like you said, where your passion for trains came from, the idea for me to run the train network was just because I needed to get fit, and I've never been someone who likes to just run around the block, over and over again. So it just was just a fun challenge and just added variety to exercise, which I think is very important. In terms of regional network, will I ever run those? The answer, I'll give a tentative yes, but there's 3 issues that are in my way. Number one is you have a lot of lines where the distance, there's not just a walking track between them, like it's often private properties, and the closest road you'll have could be a kilometre or 2 away, and often that road would be a freeway, which you're not allowed to go on. So you would be following the line, but you wouldn't be right next to it. And also just in terms of distance, just the fact that it's out regionally in the country, and living where I do in Metro Melbourne, you can't just go out there on a whim. So probably I'll tackle it when I'm retired or something. Now, the questions that I want to pose to you, which I'll answer first. What are your least favorite stations on the network? So to share mine, the ones that just don't spark joy for me. And by the way, this is not a knock on the people who live in those places or near those stations. It's just a comment on the station itself, its surroundings, and its amenities. Number 1 is Jacana, which is just next to the freeway, just south of the northern or western ring road, so just the one before Broadmeadows. Second one is Aircraft, just very simple, dingy kind of station. And third one is South Kensington. So yeah, there are, with South Kensington, if trains actually bother to stop there, I always say there's 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and no one getting on or off the train at South Kensington. Yeah. So So yeah, just keen to know what your least favorite stations are, if you have any least favorite stations. And the other question I wish to ask is, what do your family and friends think of all your shenanigans? So yeah, that's it from me. Yeah, happy to share my thoughts on the same questions you answered. And yeah, look forward to your responses. Bye.